Nurse Alicia Carter stood in the middle of the main hall, her blue scrubs slightly wrinkled after a 12-hour shift. Her natural hair was neatly pulled back, and despite exhaustion in her eyes, she carried herself with quiet strength. She didn't speak much, didn't socialize much, but her reputation was solid, kind, professional, dedicated. But none of that mattered to Dr. William Hale. Hale was known across the hospital for three things: his temper, his arrogance, and his ability to humiliate anyone who wasn't on his level. In his world, nurses were beneath him, especially nurses who looked like Alicia. The confrontation began over a patient. A boy, 14 years old, had been admitted after collapsing during basketball practice. Alicia had noticed unusual swelling near his neck and insisted he be tested for a possible allergic reaction before Hale proceeded with surgery. Hale didn't like being questioned, especially not by her. "What part of my orders did you not understand?" he hissed as he marched toward her in the hallway, loud enough for everyone to hear. Alicia held a medical chart close to her chest. Her voice didn't tremble. "Dr. Hale, his vitals were unstable. I administered an epinephrine shot to prevent—" "You're a nurse," he snapped. "Not a doctor. Don't overstep again." People were beginning to watch. A few nurses pretended to check clipboards just to stay close. Some medical students paused mid-walk. Even security nearby took notice. Suddenly Hale ripped the chart from her hands. "You do not act without my authorization." Alicia stared at him, steady, fearless. "With respect, Dr. Hale, if I hadn't acted, the patient could have gone into anaphylactic shock. He was crashing." Hale stepped closer. Too close. His finger jabbed at her like a weapon. "You people think you're smarter than me?" he sneered. "You people. Racism was always loud, even when disguised as frustration. You think you belong here?" Her jaw tightened. She knew what he meant. She had heard those coded words her whole life, but she wouldn't give him the satisfaction of reacting. "I did my job," Alicia said calmly, "and I'll do it again if it means saving a life." That was it. The challenge, the defiance. The fact that a black woman stood her ground in front of him set him off. Hale's face turned red. "Save the hero speech. You're suspended. Effective immediately." Whispers erupted around them. "What? For what? She saved the patient." "This is wrong." Alicia lifted her chin. "I will not accept a suspension for doing my job." That's when Hale snapped. His palm cut across her face with the sound of a gunshot. Slap! Gasps exploded from every corner of the hallway. A tray of medical tools someone was holding crashed to the floor. Time froze. Alicia didn't stumble. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She simply stood still, her, cheek burning, her pride boiling. The head of security, Mark Rivers, rushed in. "Whoa, what the hell just happened here?" Hale didn't even flinch. "Stay out of this, Mark. This is hospital discipline." "That was assault," a nurse cried. "She provoked me," Hale spat. "You all saw it." Alicia didn't speak. She just stared at him with eyes full of fire. Not rage, but something stronger. Conviction. "You're done," Hale barked at her. "You'll never work in medicine again. Do you hear me? Security, escort her out." Mark hesitated. Even he didn't look convinced. He had seen Hale get angry before, but this? A public slap? "You're crossing the line, Doc," Mark said cautiously. "Do your damn job," Hale roared. Mark looked at Alicia. "Ma'am, I have to—" "It's fine," Alicia said quietly. "I'll walk." But as she turned to leave, Hale smirked and delivered one more blow. "Someone like you should have known her place. Don't worry, this hospital will be better without you." The hallway fell dead silent. Alicia slowly turned back and met his eyes. She didn't shout. She didn't curse. Instead, she smiled. And that smile made Hale uneasy, because it wasn't defeat. It was a promise of consequences. She leaned in close enough only he could hear. "You just made the biggest mistake of your career," Hale scoffed. "Oh yeah? And why's that?" Alicia whispered. Calm, controlled, lethal. "Because this hospital is about to teach you a lesson, and it starts today," Hale laughed. "Oh yeah? And what, your union rep is going to save you?" She held his gaze. "No. My father will—" Hale blinked. "Your father?" Alicia took a slow breath and let the truth detonate. Yes, the hospital director, the echo of that slap still hung in the hospital air like a dirty secret nobody wanted to touch. People whispered, nurses avoided making eye contact, and everyone pretended to be busy, but the story had already spread like wildfire. Dr. Hale slapped a nurse. He slapped a black nurse. He did it in front of witnesses. He thought he got away with it. He had no idea his nightmare had just begun. Security had escorted Alicia to the administrative wing, but they didn't cuff her. because deep down even they knew she didn't deserve this. In fact, some of them respected her more than him. Meanwhile, Hale went back to doing what he did best, abusing his authority. Inside the staff conference room, he stood at the head of the table, spinning the story his way. She disobeyed direct medical orders, he announced, pacing. She put a patient's life at risk and then got physical with me. I had to defend myself. Nurse Becky shifted uncomfortably. She was there in the hallway, she saw everything. But Hale's shadow was long and dangerous, especially when backed by years of hospital politics. Did she actually get physical? She asked, cautiously. Hale narrowed his eyes at her. Are you questioning me? She froze. Silence. Hale smirked. Good. We're clear. He turned to a group of interns. You people better learn something from this. Nurses are replaceable. Doctors are not. Do your jobs and follow my lead and there won't be any problems. The interns exchanged uneasy glances. No one dared argue. Except one. Dr. David Chen, a young cardiologist who had a reputation for being fearless when it came to ethics. With all due respect, Dr. Hale, I heard Alicia saved that patient in ER. If she hadn't administered epinephrine, Hale cut him off. If I wanted a lecture in medicine, I go to a conference. Stay in your lane, Dr. Chen. David leaned forward. Someone needed to say it. What you did was assault. A tense hush swept the room. Hale stepped forward like a predator who just spotted prey. Let me give you some advice, Dr. Chen. Keep your mouth shut if you want a future in this hospital. David didn't blink. Actually, I plan on having a future built on respect. That includes respect for nurses, because they happen to keep this place running while certain people enjoy playing God. Hale's jaw tightened. You're skating on thin ice, he growled. David stood and grabbed his clipboard. Then I suggest you move before it cracks. He walked out. The whole room watched, in horror, in awe and in silence. Meanwhile, Hospital Administration Officer Alicia sat calmly in a glass-walled office, hands folded on her lap. Across from her was Linda Graves, head of Human Resources, a woman who chose politics over justice every time. Alicia, let's handle this quietly, Linda said. You'll write a formal apology, take a temporary suspension, and we'll close the file. Alicia's glare could cut through steel. You want me to apologize, Alicia said slowly, for being slapped? Linda gave a fake sympathetic nod. You know how this works. Dr. Hale is valuable to the hospital. He brings in research funding, wealthy donors. Alicia stood. Let me stop you there, she said. I will not apologize to a man who assaulted me. I will not accept suspension, and I will not be silenced. Linda forced a corporate smile. I'm afraid that decision isn't yours. Alicia leaned in. I'm afraid it's not yours either. Linda frowned. Meaning? I won't be signing anything today, Alicia said. My father would want to review these documents first. Linda stiffened. Your father? Alicia stepped toward the door. Yes, she said. The hospital director. She walked out. Linda shot to her feet. Her heartbeat spiked. What? The hospital director has a daughter working here secretly, and she just slapped his daughter. She grabbed her phone in panic. Hale's office. 5 minutes later, Hale leaned back in his leather chair with a twisted grin. One moment of aggression, and he had almost gotten away with burying Alicia's career. Almost. A knock at the door. Linda Graves stepped in. She closed the door quietly. We have a problem, she said. Hale scoffed. No. Alicia has a problem. It's over. Linda swallowed hard. She said the hospital director is her father. Hale laughed out loud. That's ridiculous. If she was the director's daughter, everyone would know. Linda shook her head nervously. Alicia Carter. No one connected that last name before because... Because what? Hale snapped. Linda hesitated. Because she was raised by her mother. She never used her father's name publicly. The director had a daughter from a previous marriage. The rumors were true. Hale stopped breathing for a moment. What are you saying? He whispered. Linda leaned forward, voice low. You just slapped the daughter of Dr. Richard Carter, your boss, the most powerful man in this hospital. Hale's blood pressure spiked. His arrogance started to fracture. No, he muttered, no, she's lying. She has to be lying. She's just a nurse. Find out, Linda whispered urgently. Or you're dead. Hospital lobby. Moments later, Alicia walked out of administration with security behind her. A crowd had gathered again. People stared. Some in fear, some in shame, some in admiration. David approached her. Hey, he said. You don't deserve this. I just want you to know I'm not afraid to testify. Alicia looked at him. His sincerity was hard to ignore. Thank you, she said. But this is bigger than a slap. He nodded. Yeah, it is. She turned to leave. He called after her. For what it's worth, Alicia, you're not alone. She didn't answer, but for the first time since the slap, her eyes softened. Back in Hale's office, Hale grabbed his phone, pacing, sweating. Call security. I want Alicia Carter prevented from entering this hospital again. Effective immediately, he barked. But sir, the guard said, what if she really is? I don't care what she is, Hale yelled. I run this hospital, do you understand me? Then a cold voice cut through the intercom speaker. No, Dr. Hale, I run this hospital. Hale froze. The voice came from behind him. He turned. Standing in the doorway was Dr. Richard Carter, the hospital director, and his eyes were deadly. The tension inside Central Mercy Hospital felt like a storm warning. Nurses watched from the corridors. Doctors paused during rounds. Interns pretended to check charts, but weren't reading a single word. Something big was happening, and every single person in that building felt it. Because today wasn't a normal day. Today, power was about to change hands. Dr. Richard Carter, hospital director and Alicia's father, stood in the main lobby surrounded by board members and senior staff. His expression was cold, too calm, the kind of calm that precedes a Category 5 disaster. Alicia stood beside him, not wearing her scrubs anymore. She wore a black blazer over a white blouse, her hair pulled back professionally. There was no trembling in her hands, no trace of fear. The humiliation from yesterday was gone, replaced by pure controlled fire. Everyone stood on edge. They were all waiting for one man, Dr. Hale. And here he came. He marched down the lobby stairs with his chin high and suit pressed, pretending nothing had happened. But his face gave him away. Tight jaw, fake confidence, eyes full of panic covered by arrogance. This is unnecessary, Hale scoffed as he approached the group. Director Carter, I assume this is a misunderstanding. I was told you wanted to speak. Richard Carter didn't blink. We're not speaking privately, Dr. Hale. We're addressing a public matter. In public. A low whisper swept through the lobby. Staff gathered closer. Hale forced a laugh. Is this about the nurse? This overreaction has gone far enough. Alicia spoke first. Calm, clear. My name isn't the nurse. It's Alicia Carter. Gasps cut through the crowd. Hale froze. Richard continued. Yesterday you slapped my daughter in this hospital. In front of patients. In front of staff. In front of witnesses. Hale snapped. She disobeyed medical orders. She endangered a life. She saved a life, said a voice from the crowd. Everyone turned. Dr. David Chen stepped forward. I was there. The patient went into anaphylactic shock. Dr. Hale wanted to wait for tests instead of stabilizing him. Alicia acted. She saved him. She defied my authority. Hale barked. David shot back. You abused your authority. The lobby crowd grew thicker. Phones were out, some openly filming now. Hale pointed angrily at David. You're siding with a nurse over a doctor? David didn't flinch. No. I'm siding with the truth. A fierce murmur spread. Hale felt himself losing grip. He turned desperately to the board members. This hospital needs leadership, not emotional drama and theatrics. You all know me. You know my record. One board member, Ms. Whitaker, stepped forward, folding her arms. Yes, we do. Her voice turned hard. In fact, we reviewed your record this morning. Hale frowned. What? Richard stepped in. 3 malpractice complaints buried, 5 HR bullying reports dismissed, 2 nurses transferred due to your behavior. Do you deny this pattern of abuse? Hale's voice rose. This is ridiculous. You went through my private employee file without authorization? Richard leaned forward, his voice cut like a blade. I am the authorization. The crowd let out a stunned gasp. Richard continued, turning to the staff. If any employee here has ever been mistreated, silenced, threatened, or abused by Dr. Hale, step forward. For a moment there was hesitation. Then one nurse stepped forward, then another, then a third, and soon a line began forming, men and women, nurses and residents, one by one stepping out behind Alicia. Becky stepped forward too. Her voice shook as she spoke. He said nurses are replaceable, that we're nothing but his assistants. Another joined. He threatened to blacklist me from every hospital in the state if I reported him. Another. He told me women don't belong in surgery. Another. He changed patient charts to cover his mistakes and blamed staff for errors. Another. He yelled at me during a trauma code while a patient was dying. The crowd turned hostile, faces hardened, murmurs became outrage. Hale's mask cracked. This is a setup, he shouted. "You're all turning on me? After everything I've done for this hospital?" Richard spoke, low and deadly. "No. This is accountability." Hale's eyes snapped to Alicia. "Pure venom. You did this," he hissed. "You think you're powerful now because your father runs this place? You're still just a nurse. Nurses don't win. Doctors do." Alicia stepped forward. "And that," she said slowly, "is exactly why you belong nowhere near a hospital." She turned to the crowd, to everyone listening. "You think this is about a slap? No. This is about what people like him get away with for years because nobody stands up, because fear keeps good people silent. But today, that ends." The staff erupted. Finally, someone said it. Hale lunged toward her in rage. "I swear, I'll slam!" Security tackled him before he reached her. He screamed, "Get off me! I built this hospital! I saved lives! You can't do this to me!" Richard Carter stepped closer, eyes like ice. "You're suspended, effective immediately, and before the day ends, you'll be indicted." "Indicted?" Hale spit. "For what?" Richard handed him a document. "For assault, workplace harassment, suppression of safety protocol, and if our legal team confirms it, insurance fraud tied to your malpractice cover-ups." Hale went silent. Panic finally flooded his face. This isn't over," he whispered. Alicia stepped close, eye to eye. "Oh yes," she said softly, "it is." He was dragged out as the hospital watched. Some filmed, some clapped, some cried, some stood in shock, but no one stopped it. Because everyone knew. Justice had finally walked in, and her name was Alicia Carter. The hospital is electric. Cameras from local news vans are clustered at the curb. A swarm of reporters threads through the lobby, microphones extended like probing fingers. Social media is already buzzing. Clips from the slap, clips from the public denouncement, half a dozen eyewitness videos stitched into a narrative that's going viral by the minute. The story isn't just inside these walls anymore. It is outside, on feeds, on morning shows, on talk radio. The world is watching. Alicia stands at the center of the storm, but she is not a victim in this picture. She is a conductor of consequence. She is calm. Dressed simply, she looks like someone who has slept very little but has never been clear about what needs to happen. Beside her, Dr. Benjamin Carter is a mountain, stoic, measured, but his eyes glint with a father's righteous fury. There is no theatricality in him, there is policy and there is law, and tonight both of those things have aligned. In the main atrium, a temporary stage is set. The hospital's legal team, 2 representatives from a state medical oversight board, and an agent in plain clothes who introduces himself quietly as FBI, Special Agent Morales, stand ready. The board calls this an emergency hearing, but the presence of the FBI makes it obvious this has crossed from personnel dispute to criminal inquiry. Dr. Richard Hale steps out into that noise with the same practiced swagger he has used for years. But swagger doesn't mask fear. His suit is impeccable, his voice tries for control, and his hands tremble inside the sleeves. He approaches the microphone as if it is a podium at a press conference of his own doing. "Good afternoon," he says, voice too loud in the hushed room. "I want to address—" "You assaulted a staff member," someone shouts from the crowd. Phones rise. He falters. Agent Morales steps forward, calm and precise. "Dr. Hale," she says, "you are under investigation for assault, for intentional harm, and for alleged involvement in a scheme that altered patient billing records and misallocated hospital funds. We also have cause to investigate several incidents where patient safety protocols were deliberately ignored. Do you understand?" Hale's color drains. He tries a legalistic retort. Objections, protests, the old shield of privilege. But the legal documents in Agent Morales' hands make it impossible to deflect. She reads with emotionless clarity. Bank transfers linked to shell companies, redacted audits showing altered malpractice payouts, testimony from nurses and residents compiled with timestamps, phone records and security footage. Video of Hale manipulating a chart, timestamped, appears on the monitors behind them. The monitors flicker and repeat the image. His hand erasing a note, writing in a new diagnosis. The lobby watches his hands in slow motion. "Those are edits to cover up surgical complications," Agent Morales says. "Those payouts were made to accounts associated with entities in which you had an undisclosed interest. And we have multiple nurses who will testify you threatened them into silence." The crowd tightens into a collective intake of breath. A nurse from trauma, one of the nurses who has been quiet until now, steps forward and speaks into the microphone. She is shaking, but she is not alone. One by one, a line of hospital employees begins to file forward, each with a story. A transferred nurse forced to sign a non-disclosure, a resident who was told to alter test results, a family who was denied full disclosure until a lawsuit was threatened. The testimony is surgical. Each small story adds up into a damning mosaic. Hale starts to shout, to deny, to threaten. He throws accusations like projectiles, claims of conspiracy, claims that he is the victim of a smear campaign. The crowd rejects him. They boo. The boos become chants. Accountability, accountability. And it's not the sound of chaos, it's the sound of a workforce finally believing their own power. Agent Morales nods to the legal counsel. We will be taking Dr. Hale in for questioning, and we will secure all financial records. Effective immediately, Dr. Hale is suspended and will be relieved of hospital privileges pending investigation. Hale's face contorts. You're making a mistake. You don't understand what I've done for this institution. You use this institution, Richard Carter says, voice low and lethal. He steps forward, not to shout, but to deliver the blow that actually matters. You endangered patients to protect your own financial interests. That ends today. Alicia, who has listened to both the heartbreaking testimonies and the slow unspooling of financial evidence, feels something in her chest like a match finally striking. She doesn't speak to inflame, she speaks to finish. People will remember what you did, she says, eyes locked on Hale. You taught us how to be afraid of you. You taught us to doubt ourselves. That was part of the job you stole from us, the dignity to care without fear. But you taught me something else. You taught me that silence is a currency you hoarded. I cash it in today. Cameras catch that line and sprint with it. Social feeds explode. Hundreds of thousands of views bending toward her words within minutes. The hospital's PR team is suddenly trying to control a narrative they no longer own. Outside the doors, the First Network sends a live feed. A legal team from a prominent civil rights group announces they're preparing a class action suit for the nurses who suffered under Hale's regime. An investigative journalist pulls up financial records publicly. Local politicians demand hearings. Hale is led away in handcuffs. He pleads, then bargains, then begs in a voice so raw it is almost pathetic. He keeps asking to speak to the director, only to be told Richard Carter is not interested in hearing a word. You should have thought about the people you were breaking before you broke them, Richard tells him, as agents close the door behind Hale. The fallout is immediate and seismic. The insurance auditors arrive. The state medical board freezes Hale's medical license pending review. The hospital's board convenes an emergency session to clean up the mess and to audit every division. Donors who once wrote checks demand answers, and then, when answers reveal a festering rot, withdraw their support. The national news cycle picks it up, and for 3 days straight, the hospital is on front pages and broadcasts with a heap of damning documents attached. But the most important thing is smaller, quieter, and hotter than headlines. The hospital floor hums with a different energy. Nurses, ordinary, tired, worn-down nurses, start to speak. They organize unit meetings, they demand policy changes, they push for safer reporting channels and for a medical oversight board with independent reviews. Benjamin Carter works with unions and legal teams to draft new whistleblower protections and to publicly promise a transparent restructuring. And for Alicia, the work isn't about vengeance. She watches Hale taken away and hears his small, shocked voice beg, "Please, don't ruin me." There is no satisfaction in hearing a man beg. There is a steadier satisfaction, justice finally balancing the scales. Weeks later, when indictments are filed, Hale's name becomes a cautionary headline. When his professional license is revoked, and when court filings show the money trail that purchased his arrogance, few defend him. He loses the respect he thought was his right. He loses his career, his status, and soon his freedom. Alicia stands outside the courthouse the day the grand jury hands down charges. Reporters push microphones toward her, but she steps back. She looks to the side where her father waits, shoulders straight. He catches her eye and gives a small nod. No fanfare, only approval. "You did what you needed to do," he says quietly when they walk away. She thinks of the fear she swallowed when Hale's hand hit her face. She thinks of every woman who was quiet because their mouths were threatened. She thinks of the patient who could have died if she had hesitated. "Justice was the only thing I wanted," Alicia says. "And justice came," he replies. They walk into the lobby together. The hospital is a different place now. Messy, imperfect, but honest. The work of healing is noisy and complicated and ongoing. But there is a lightness in the hallways where, before, there was an undercurrent of dread. A few months later, a short viral clip from that day becomes a teaching moment in nursing programs across the state. Students watch Alicia's calmness, her refusal to be humiliated, and they learn to measure dignity not by the size of your title, but by the measure of your actions. The last shot in the news montage is of Hale in a grey jumpsuit, head bowed, escorted into a detention center. The anchor's voice narrates the charges and the broken trust. The camera pans to Alicia, walking through hospital doors. She pauses, touches the badge pinned to her chest, and then keeps walking, because the work is not finished. It never is. The screen fades on her silhouette. A final line, spoken by millions in the aftermath, threads through social feeds like an anthem. "You can hit me." The clip reads in headlines and captions. "But you cannot stop what I began.